Cast on a Thursday, sunny afternoon here from Sacramento, California. I have my brother from another mother, man, Coach AC. How you doing, my man?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Quarantined up in Seattle at the moment.
Okay, what has it been like for you for a basketball head coach on a day to day? What was that process like? I know March 11th, I think it was, when the Kings and Pelicans were supposed to play that game on national television. You being a Pelicans fan, and I know we'll get into this, who deserves that spot, who would have taken that spot a little bit later on. But what's it been like for you, and just take us through the process of being a head coach and just getting your team together and say, hey, man, we need to really like stay put, listen to whatever the government has to say, and just be like that father figure in the sense.
Yeah. So actually, when things out broke in March 11th, we were still playing. So we were in our national tournament. We were in Boston, which was a hotbed at the time. We were traveling, and I was responsible for 14 teenagers. So
Wow.
I was on the inside, I was terrified, uh, but on the outside, I had to stay calm, cool, collective, and they're teenagers, so they didn't understand the severity of it. They didn't take it very seriously. But I had a pretty good idea where it was going. So we didn't get to finish our tournament, which was a bummer. But everyone got out of the East Coast safe. We changed flights. We were able to do all of our
Hmm.
our, our schooling online. And then there was, once I got the kids, where they needed to go. Now the parents started to panic. So there was a lot of managing, a lot of managing people, adults, kids. It was stressful, but everyone that I know, everybody I'm connected to, was safe and still is safe. So things are good.
That's really good to hear, Coach. Just so much has happened. Obviously, they took away something that we love, right? Which is basketball, a game that really unites people. It doesn't matter what ethnicity, what color, where you from. Basketball, amongst so many sports, does that one thing. It's a distraction to the real life, and they've taken it away from us. And right now, it's also given us though a lot of time to spend with our families. How has that been for you?
It's been good. It's been good. I haven't been. I've been home back and forth in Seattle for the last 10 years, but I've never been this present.
Right.
I'm actually here mentally. I'm not thinking about the team. I'm not thinking about the next game, next scout, next recruit, next trip. I'm present. I'm home, and that side of it has been a positive. But your family does drive you crazy at some. Uh,
No doubt, man. There's just so much going on right now. Today is day one of the NFL draft. We can talk about that a little bit. You're a Seahawks fan. You're from Seattle. I'm a Raider fan, so it's a huge day. Las Vegas Raiders now. Um, I also want to mention that a lot of our local businesses have been shut down, or in some sense, they haven't been able to function, in full capacity because of all the laws in place, the shelter and home laws. So that's really hurt our economy. And to yesterday, last night, I decided to really reach out to our community, to our business owners, and essentially give them free promotion for the time being, because I understand that we do have a strong platform here in Sacramento, and I want to use our platform for good. So, giving them any type of promotion, like today, one of our local spots that's right next to the Golden One Center, Flat Stick Pub. They're doing a bunch of promotions, and we've shouted them out. We've received multiple businesses already reaching out to us and saying that they need our help, and just getting the word out. I know it's super tough being a business owner myself, and right now money is tight. So definitely, you guys can continue to reaching out to us. We'll continue to support in any way that we can. Shout out to the Kings organization. They essentially, from 7 to 9, uh, the arena glows blue for healthcare workers, which is a nice gesture of them to do something like that. But again, a huge shout out to our only sponsor that hasn't shut down, which is Valley Tire Center. They've been phenomenal, keeping their doors open, following all the rules, trying to be as clean as possible for their customers. So they're out there ready to serve you guys. So please, guys, if you can, support your local businesses in this time of need. Let's talk about the NBA and when you think it'll come back. We just got news that Chris Paul says that they may need a few weeks to prep. Now, what does that mean to you, Coach?
I would probably appreciate, basketball is a game of rhythm,
No doubt.
individual rhythm, and then team synergy as well. So staff synergy. There's so much that goes into a professional basketball team that the untrained eye doesn't really understand.
Right.
So I think 3 weeks is on the short end. And then that's not even touching base on like the players' safety and healthy and their bodies and the time that they need to perform at a high level. So I think that's fair. If anything, I think it's a quick turnaround. So
Now, do you think that we'll have a season this year?
I don't. I don't. I
Really?
think I don't see it happening. I see. I'm not a scientist,
Right.
but I would say maybe the middle of the summer. Things start to slow down, and then there's just so much, like I said, so much things that go into it that I think sports would be put on the back end.
And do you say that because of not having a vaccine in place?
Yes, yes. So it'll be impossible to not spread the virus.
Right.
Uh, and then again, player safety always comes first, especially in my eyes. I think they would be putting themselves and their careers at risk, their families at risk, if they competed. So it'd be fun, it'd be entertaining, it'd be something to watch, but I don't think it's fair by the players.
Now, would you maybe consider having NBA games without fans? And I know LeBron has been very pessimistic about that, but is that an alternative route? That way, we all get what we want in some sense, or is that too
Yeah,
selfish to ask for?
I think it wouldn't work just because the players would still be the ones at risk.
Okay.
I think it would work from a fan standpoint. I think we'd be entertained. I think the way broadcasting is set up, I don't even think we would realize if there's fans or not. I think there's ways they can disguise it, but
Yep.
again, I don't think it's the best interest of the players.
Okay. Let's stay on track with basketball. Huge news that could affect. I don't know if it could affect you or just it's gonna affect college basketball for sure. And that's the NBA G League, essentially reeling away the top recruit of 2021, the potential number one pick. What does that mean for college basketball?
I think it's putting the power in the players' hands, giving them another option. 'Cause, ultimately, kids grow up, especially as talented as these kids are. They grow up and they think about college, but their ultimate goal is to go to the NBA. So I think
Mm-hmm.
this is a smoother route for them to get there, and I think it's a good thing. So
Does that affect anything on your guys' end since you guys are a college prep to get these kids ready for college basketball? But now it's kind of like, well, if you do get one of these top recruits, you're essentially going to get these kids ready for the G League because it seems like the incentives are there. They're still providing you the opportunity to go back to college if you want to. And we all understand. And the truth is, most of these kids show up to class at the bare minimum for 6 months and then they're winning out anyway and they go straight to the league. I think the G League, by incentivizing them with a nice paycheck, anywhere from 100,000 to 500,000 is more than fair, and whatever bonuses are in there, and then they still give you a chance to go back to school. Say by the time you're done playing the NBA, like you still have that option. I think it's a great thing, and I think that college basketball should be scared a little because it could affect their business. But in terms of high school basketball, do you see a little bit of a change?
yeah, and I think the kids need to be careful. I think there's one or two players a class that I think can make this move. So I think for let's just take the top 100. I think
Mm-hmm.
98 of them shouldn't even consider it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I think they're very special situations that kids like Jalen Green. I think this helps Isaiah Todd more than it helps Jalen Green. I think Jalen Green was on a trajectory to go from high school, Kentucky, wherever he wanted to go, to
Right.
being a 1 or 2 pick. So I think he can only go down. You know what I mean? Because just
Yep.
because he won't be playing against competition, there'll be more question marks next to his name. But I think a guy like Isaiah Todd, who you know bigger players usually tend to struggle in the
Yep.
college game. I think fundamentally he needs what the G League is going to provide him. So I think it's a great thing for a guy like Isaiah Todd. I think essentially Jalen Green can be a situation where you got this nice paycheck, but if you sacrifice going from the number 2 pick to the number 10 pick, you essentially give that money right back. So I like that he's a pioneer. I like that he's thought outside the box, and I think it's a great thing. But I like it better for Todd than I do Green.
That's a very interesting take. I haven't really thought about that. Do you think Jalen would have been the number one pick this year?
No,
Me neither.
no, no, not even close.
I think I think Anthony Edwards is a better prospect in my opinion. I love LaMelo Ball. I want to hear your thoughts about that. Wiseman's coming out, and I'm a big fan of Denny Advia. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it would be crazy to think Jalen Green would be able to go straight from prolific prep to the NBA. I think hey, he's talented. I don't think he was a shoe in for the number 1 pick in this next year's class. So there's always a projected player to go number 1,
Mm-hmm.
and those guys usually tend to drop 2, 3 spots down just
Yep.
because there's always late bloomers, there's kids that come from overseas, and then there's always that super senior or junior that comes out the woodwork like Obi Toppin. So um, I agree with you. I like those players and prospects as well.
How do you feel about LaMelo Ball at the next level?
Uh, he scares me if you give him money. You know, I,
Really?
I think he's matured. I think going overseas was great for him. I think college would have been putting him in an environment where there's a lot of patience for him. So I think isolating him, getting in a situation where he can focus on only basketball is good. He is so talented, man. I think I like Jalen Green, but that type of shot making, athleticism, tough shot creation, that stuff doesn't impress me anymore. Like I need to see like high level reads, like Melo makes some ball screens
Big
and
facts,
in
man.
transition. That type of stuff is what's attractive to me now.
Yeah, I mean, you're a head coach. I know we were talking about me coaching my first program, which is AAU program, and I hosted my first practice 2 days before the NBA shut down, which was that Pelicans game. It was that Monday, and I had this kid, right, 15-year-old point guard who can just make the high level read at 15. I'm thinking to myself, man, like that's the type of things that I look for because I'm a big Luca fan, and that's what I saw when I came out when he came out a year and a half ago, before we knew who Luca was, and see the high IQ, like I've always said, philosophically speaking, I'll take high IQ over extreme athleticism any day, and I think you will too. And I feel like we're seeing where that can lead you in terms of wins and losses at the next level. You don't have to be the most athletic because most of it is a mental thing. Um, and if you have that type of a feel for the game, which I don't think can be taught. I think you can work on it, but I don't think it can be taught. And Lamelo definitely has that Luca esque to his game, right?
For sure, for sure. He's always had it. If you watch
Yep.
stuff from when he was in the backcourt with his brother Lonzo, like I think just the reads that he was making for 13, 14-year-old, and testament to his dad and his family for putting him at a higher level and
Yep.
pushing it and challenging him. Like that's a lot where it comes from. Just like Luca played professionally since he was 15, 16. So I think the game has changed. Like everyone's watching the Jordan documentary, and if
Yeah.
you watch the none of the only highlights, but like the way he's impacting the game is a lot off athleticism. You know what I mean? It's like 10 guys are in the paint at, every time he shoots. So And I think the game now is more off. That ball zips from spot to spot. You have to be able to make reads. You have to understand the NBA game, and I think it's so much different than college. It's more like what we see in overseas more than ever. So I think the thought of a kid going to straight from high school basketball,
Yeah.
to playing in that, that's almost like two different sports.
Thank you. I know LeBron has really pushed for the idea for the commissioner to vote on high school seniors being able to go straight to the NBA like it used to be, and I see his interest. His interest, obviously, he wants his son and to be at the NBA, and he wants to play with his son. But I think you're 100% right. I just don't see how, if you don't look like LeBron or Zion, right, which is a rarity in terms of your body being there, how can you make that jump just from a physical standpoint, not even from an IQ or from a skill level standpoint? So I definitely don't see that, which is why I like the G League alternative where you have basketball coaches who coach at a high level. You have a nice strength program in place for you to get stronger and to really test your mindset, your skills, and all those things that get you prepared for the next level. But going straight from high school to the NBA is a little bit crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think one and done is crazy. Like that's crazy enough. I think the game is just so mental now more than
Mhm.
ever. That's why you see, farm systems like the G League. Like, yeah, those players are getting better, but they're also learning the NBA game, learning terminology, learning where they fit in the offense, learning, what reads to make. I think the teams that are having success right now, like let's say the Toronto Raptors, they're taking advantage of putting people and players in the G League, letting them get live reps, teaching them the game at a high level, and then you can throw them in roles in the NBA, and it's like, well, it just transfers over like now more than ever.
100%. So you already mentioned, which is a nice segue to our next topic, which is the MJ documentary. Your thoughts on the first two parts?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I think Jordan's stuff is so out there that I think there's so little that they can expose
Yeah.
that we didn't really know. But to me, I enjoyed like seeing Michael Jordan just relaxed in a relaxed setting where he's smoking a cigar. He's got a glass of whiskey next to him, and he's just being real. You know what I mean? Like he's not worried about the camera. He's not worrying about what he says. He's not looking over his shoulder. I think for a lot of his career, I think he was walking on eggshells. So that's what I appreciate the most. I think documentary is great. I think timing is impeccable.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to this Sunday.
What was your favorite part? What's that one thing that really stood out to you that maybe you didn't know about Michael or those Bulls?
Yeah, I think the whole Pippen situation.
Okay.
You know, I knew it and I was aware of it, but I think Pippen was always in the shadow, and his story kind of goes untold a little bit. So, I think just learning a little bit more about Pippen and the supporting cast is because I think I know enough about Jordan, but just to hear him talk about those guys and be open about how he felt with those guys is pretty cool to me.
Yeah, to me, the what stood out to me was their GM dynamic, where for some strange reason, this little short fat man thought he was the show. Like he was disgruntled and upset that MJ and Scotty would get all the attention, and that's so to me it's so disrespectful to the players. And I get it; he did a great job in forming this team, making the right trades, making the right signings. But at the end of the day, as MJ said in the documentary, this is about the players, and if the players don't execute, you don't win as a front office member or as a head coach, no matter how good of a coach you are. I mean, we could talk about George Karl being a great coach. He ran into Michael Jordan. Like you can only do so much. I feel like as a coach, when it comes to winning the championship, and people just overstate it, but winning the championship is so difficult, man. Right?
Yeah, yeah. I think you. You could have been the coach. I could have been the GM, or
Yep.
vice versa, and we won, multiple championships with the Bulls. Just like you said, it's about the players. So it's very little, especially at that level, man.
Right.
About you're managing and you're keeping guys happy, but like for the most part, just stay out their way.
Right. I feel like the NBA isn't as diverse as, say, European basketball, where coaching matters a little bit more, right? Because there's a little bit less games, there's more time to prepare, so you're constantly, playing chess and just making or adjusting to the other guys' moves or plays or whatever the case may be. But at the NBA level, it's like, nah, your talent, and when you play 81 games, that's what's going to end up putting you on top or keeping you in the middle, which is NBA purgatory, or just keeping you mediocre, right?
For sure, for sure. I think putting a premium on GMs, and the job that they do, and organizations, the players that they bring in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think that goes unseen. So I would put that over coaching, because there's a reason why
Could, yeah.
the San Antonio Spurs, now they draft what, from 25 and down
Yep.
every year, but they're consistently, have put a really really good product on the floor. And then you have a team like the Phoenix Suns who draft 5 and up, you know what I mean, and they can't figure it out. So it's just about the people that you bring in, the profile of the person that you bring in. You know what I mean? Because again, like you said, it is all about the players.
That's crazy. So let's talk about the Kings and the Pelicans. They were tied for that 9th spot with Portland, and then San Antonio was a half game out of them, all fighting the Grizzlies for that final 8th spot. I was there that night. It was an insane night. An hour and a half before, we already had the breaking news about Rudy Gobert testing positive for COVID-19. And they still said, "Nah, we playing this game. We on ESPN." And ultimately, and I keep telling the story, but it was the Pelicans that when they found out that the referee, one of the referees had refed 2 nights before at a Jazz game, they were like, "Nah, we're not playing." And in my opinion, they just didn't want to smoke because they knew they were losing that game that night. That's all I gotta say. But do you think the Pelicans would have ultimately ended up in the A spot?
Yes, I think the Grizzlies would have blew it. I think luck the first, quarter and whole half of the first season. I think luck was on the Grizzlies side. I think injuries, everything, they just got dealt a really good hand. And I think that the Pelicans were kind of figuring things out. I think, Brandon Ingram, what he did in the beginning of the year was
He's
was
nice.
was it was impressive. But I think we really needed Zion. As a closer, somebody to get easy baskets down the stretch. And I'm hoping, and it would have been entertaining to watch. But I mean, I also liked what you guys were doing in Sacramento. I think you guys were, the noise from the media was getting, quiet because you guys were starting to play well, and
Mm-hmm.
it would have been fun to watch. But I think it would have been either, Kings or Pelicans, in a Photoshop finish. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they played each other 2 games. I think that night the Kings would have won only because of what it all meant. National television, it was their first ESPN game. They usually get riled up for big games like that. They lost a very crucial game, right, to them earlier in the year. It was after Bielitsa hit that shot, and then I think it was JJ Redick that made that game winner.
Yep.
That was just a great finish. But as you said, injuries have plagued both teams all year. Specifically, the Kings, I feel like not having Fox for 19, 20 games this year, not having Rashawn Holmes for 25 plus games, even Marvin Bagley for 50 games, which is insane. And again, it just shows, and that's a whole separate conversation. But the fact that, this, I love Jaren Jackson coming out the draft, and just seeing Jaren Jackson flourish in year number 2 and just seeing how good he is. We knew how great he was defensively, but really showing, I mean, off the dribble, coming off of, double staggered screens, like action time. I'm like, what the, why? Like, how is this big ass dude able to do these type of things? Like, that's insane to me. And so shout out to that development program with Memphis, brand new head coach. And it just seems like they're going in the right direction. John Moran's a hell of a basketball player. But I like what the Kings are doing in terms of DeAaron Fox finally coming into his zone. He's healthy. The last 2 months he's been killing it. Roughly, 22, 23 points a game, 9, 10 assists a game, which is what I expected before the year started. But injuries happen, right? And that's part of the game. He came into his zone the last 2 months, and the Kings are one of the best teams in the NBA. They were winning games. They were on the right path. And Rashawn Holmes, which was the biggest surprise of the season, got injured, and he came back. I think 2 games before that Pelicans game was supposed to happen. So things are finally going in the right direction for the Kings, and then boom, in the snap of a finger, everyone's lives change. And I just felt like I think you're right. It would have came down to the Pelicans and the Kings. But my thing is, and I stand by this, I think DeAaron Fox. First of all, I think the Pelicans from top to bottom are a little bit better, or a little bit deeper, for sure. But I feel like De'Aaron Fox, believe it or not, when it's all said and done this year, this last 2 months of De'Aaron Fox is the best player out of both teams. Thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think that's fair in terms of his input on the game. I think Zion's really fun to watch. I think Brandon Ingram's really fun to watch. But like, I think De'Aaron has that balance of being really really talented and knowing how to win games. So I would agree with you. So
Yeah, and Zion again. Like, I'm not trying to disrespect Zion because he's a hell of a prospect, and he could ultimately end up being better. But I'm just saying today, I feel like Fox, out of everybody, out of Ingram and Zion, I think he's a better player. And I don't know if people took that quote out of context. No, I do think he's better today. That doesn't
right,
mean I think he may be better in a few years, but I also have a huge question mark with Zion. Like, I don't know if he can stay healthy if he stays at that weight, and that's a scary thing for me. And I would hate to see injuries derail his career because this guy is just so good. And I remember you telling me before the year started how the Pelicans plan on using him, as a small ball five. We've seen already how amazing he is at that spot in 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there. He's just so critical on both ends because he's strong enough to stay in front of the other big guys. But if you use him in that position on offense, he spreads out the floor, and he just commands so much attention, right? And it's just a great thing to watch every night.
yeah. The interesting thing was to see like the fall off of Brandon Ingram. You know what I mean? That's something that
Mm,
did me. I think the reason why he was having so much success was he was playing the four. You know,
right.
he got moved to the three. Now he's no longer a mismatch. Now he's taking tougher shots. Now,
That's true.
at times when he was, making his right to left crossover, now you get all the way to the basket and get layups. Like now that was a short pull up, and the percentages would go down. And that's something that we definitely need to pay attention to. Leading forward. So I know it's
So
a
do
big
you
summer.
keep him?
It's a big summer. I think he is on the same track, as our younger guys.
He's
So
young.
if we pay him, he gets 4 years. If it doesn't work out, then Zion and those guys will be ready to get paid. And so I think it makes sense. I think we'd be crazy to let him go, just because he is really really talented and he's a 22, 25 point per game scorer. So there's not too many of those walking around.
And you can always trade them the following year. So he's an asset. I just don't see how they would ever let him walk. The same situation in Sacramento with Bogdanovich. I think people misconstrue the idea, and this is where people or the untrained eye, or however you want to call it, they don't really understand how things work. Where, yes, guys do get overpaid, and yes, we can always debate if whether or not a guy's overpaid. But the fact of the matter is, you cannot let an asset walk away for nothing. So what the Kings are going to do is they're going to re-sign Bogey at whatever cost, and if it doesn't work out, if they don't get better in terms of making the playoffs, or making a run in the playoffs, say in the future with him, you can always trade these type of guys, especially a Bogey who's so versatile, who can come off any bench, who can start for a lot of teams. Those guys don't come around often. So the NBA needs playmaking scores like Bogdan's, and again, guys who average 22, 25 a game like a Brandon, those don't come very often. So they're probably gonna max them out close to it, and then with Bogey, I see anywhere from 15 to 18 million per season, which I think is fair. But who knows what the salary cap uh, will be after all this, right? It was already lower because of the whole China debacle. Now with the pandemic and the NBA losing millions, maybe even billions, we'll see what the cap is like.
Yeah, for sure. And I 100% agree. I think Bogey. You spent time on him. You
Yep.
developed him. You drafted him. Like you don't just throw things like that and players like that away. So I think 100% I agree. You sign him, and it just gives you flexibility in the future.
And that leads up to the next question. And I hate to frame it this way, but for some strange reason, a lot of Kings fans want to debate between, well, Buddy and Bogey play the same position, but I'm like, yeah, but you should be able to play them both. And Luke has had his ups and downs as a head coach. He's frustrated me most of the year with a lot of just the word coaching. But my thing is, you don't have to decide between both of them. But if you had to, right? If I put your back against the wall and I'm like, okay, choose one player, which one would you choose?
I'm 100% biased. I'm going with Buddy Hield. Um, I, I think the league is putting such a premium on 3-point shooting. I think
Yeah.
Bogey may be the better all around player, but Buddy has a superpower and that's shooting that ball. So
You said it perfectly. He has a superpower shooting that ball, and I know he just came out with the quote saying that he'd love to play Steph and Clay in a 3-point shootout. I've said this from the start. Those three guys are the best shooters in the world, and I would love to watch that. Who do you think would win that game?
I would go a 3-way tie.
They'd all get 27 in the first round. Hey, Buddy had 27 both times.
Right,
Like,
right.
what was going through your mind All Star Weekend when he was just on fire, bro?
I've seen this before. He gets that
Yeah,
confidence
I
starts
lived
popping.
it.
He's competitive, and I was like, he's not gonna lose. So I was pretty confident while I was watching. It was just fun to see his work pay off.
Okay, so I want to talk about coaching a little bit and what's it gonna be like for you? Hopefully, once the country reopens, have you guys thought about that, or has it not hit you yet? Where you're just spending time with your family? Do you consistently talk to the players, or what's that dynamic like right now?
I think this probably couldn't have happened at a worse time. I think if we were in the middle of our season, like that's fine. You cancel games, but like we're in the middle of recruiting, so like kids are missing out on opportunities to go to college, and
Mm-hmm.
they can't visit campuses, they can't meet coaches face to face, and I think the only positive in this is that the whole virtual thing, like Zoom meetings have been great, and I will take whenever the pandemic is over, I'll take that with me. I think, but I think coaching is something that isn't important right now. I just think as long as people are healthy and our relationships just stay solid, I think that's
Right.
what's most important right now.
So for the people maybe that have questions about your program and what your role is, can you kind of go over that one more time?
Yep. So the head post grad coach at Sunrise Christian Academy. We have a high school team who is you've probably seen them play on ESPN.
Yep.
Uh, we're a national
Number
power.
6 or 7.
I think the latest was 4. So
Holy smokes.
yeah, so they got rated in the way too early top 25, number 2 in the country. And they bring back a really, really, really talented team. So, people probably are familiar with names like IMG, Montverde. Like we Oak Hill, we consider ourselves in that same echelon. So, and then I'm the post grad coach. So Luke Barnwell coaches our high school team. I coach our post grad team, and we're in the top 10 in our respective field as well.
So how does that work? For the people who have questions, say some of the kids who don't go to a D1 program from this great high school program, do they go to you next, or do
Hmm.
you do your own recruiting?
Yeah, I do complete my own recruiting, so we'll turn over a whole new roster every year. So we may get blessed with one or two kids that roll over from a high school team, but
Mhm.
most of them will go to college. So the reason why you would need a post grad year is academically you didn't meet the requirement 2.3. You fell short of your ACT. You need an extra year of development, or you need some exposure. So we can provide all those things and more.
So would you say that your program is kind of like the G League, where it's an accelerator program where college basketball may not be that, and by that I mean a JUCO. So between a JUCO and your program, what are the major differences?
You don't lose any eligibility. So when you go to junior college, you have to go for 2 years. By the time you would reach a Division 1, Division 2, you'd be a junior. So
Uh,
our program is you can receive college credit, but your NCAA clock never starts. So you can be recruited in 6 months.
oh.
Yeah, you can be recruited in 6 months and then start as a freshman. So honestly, you don't burn any time. You can only get ahead. So
And why don't we have more of those type of programs? What?
That's a good question. Good question. So I think they're really, really popular on the East Coast. It was kind of born on the East Coast. I think we're the only one in the Midwest that kind of does it on the level that we do it.
Uh-huh.
But to me, if it was like, man, if I was a kid and I was that age, and
Yeah.
I went to junior college, so I went to Yuba College actually in Northern California. And, if this avenue was there for me, it would be a no brainer.
It's like a second opportunity, right?
Right, right. An extra year of development, extra year of exposure. We have a full time strength coach. We have we say we run it like a college program. So it's just what
Mm.
you're going to do in college. You just see a mirror of it for an entire year. So
That's interesting, man, because with the program that we started here in Stockton, it's essentially similar in the sense that we have trained professionals that are strength coaches giving up their time to teach these kids and help them get stronger. At the same time, we have a bunch of tutors that will help their grades stay on track while practicing. So we're kind of taking a little bit from that and trying to give these kids an outlet outside of school to stay out of trouble, to key and hone their basketball skills, but at the same time prioritize grades and getting stronger as we prep them to maybe for you guys or for their goal, which is playing college basketball, and hopefully, if we ever get an elite prospect going straight to the G League. Um, but yeah, man, I think that's gonna do it. We had a great conversation. I appreciate your time as always. Hopefully, we can do it again next week, and hopefully, we have more news. When's if the NBA will come back or not. Uh, who knows? I know you don't think it'll come back. I still have hope only because of the money situation where I just it's hard for me to believe that they're gonna lose this much money if they don't come back. Um, but I'm seeing it from a financial standpoint, but from a health standpoint, I think you're right in terms of you have to have all the safety measures ready to rock and roll. And if Dr. Fauci and his team says it's okay, then it's okay. But we'll see, man. I appreciate you, brother. Take care. And is there anything else that you would like to add?
no, just thanks for having me. I know it's been a while. I think if we there's not a lot of basketball out there for us to talk about, but maybe in a couple of weeks we can talk about the NBA draft.
That's right. The NBA draft is coming up, and today is the NFL draft, which I think or it's about to start, or if it didn't start already. That's gonna do it, y'all, man. Again, shout out to everybody who supports Cowbell Kingdom, the Basketball Zone Instagram page as well. Make sure to support your local businesses in SAC and Seattle, all over the world. We need you guys to step up and continue to be caring and giving as you've always been. That's how we've become this great country, by helping each other out. So sharing is caring, guys. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys on the next one.